But let's wrap up the game against South Carolina State. One of the things we do around here all the time is we do our kind of our game balls, kind of our good, bad, uglies, whatever you want to call it. Other shows have other names for it. But the way Mike and I do this is we look at different things throughout the game, and we assign categories based on our previous bowl games, bowl appearances, or bowl victories, or bowl losses, as it were, right? So we have two categories that are kind of the favorable categories. That is the Peach Bowl is the top of the top. The Liberty Bowl, 2010 Liberty Bowl, is our kind of our middle category. And then on the negative side, we have the Hawaii Bowl. No, we don't have the Hawaii Bowl anymore, do we? Yeah, we have the Hawaii Bowl. I think we changed it
to Boca, didn't we?
We had the Boca Bowl. The Boca Bowl is the bad category, right? So we've got basically the Boca Bowl. Do we have another category? I thought we had one more. Cure Bowl? Did we get rid of that one?
The Cure Bowl. Yeah,
I think we just got three now. I should really rehearse this.
The Cure or Boca could be the worst category there is.
Gotcha.
Depends
on three categories. We got three categories. Liberty Bowl is okay. Peach is fantastic. Boca Bowl is GTFO. So that's how we do this around here, Mike. Each of us have an opportunity to go through and pick three things. And we got some graphics to accompany this for those of you who are following along on YouTube. If you're not on YouTube, you can get on there too. We'll splice this up for you, Mike. But you are up first with your first category, and lead us off. What do you got?
The very first Peach of the year. Happy to tell you, John Rhys Plumlee, for the hot start he got off to in this game, especially in that first quarter. We didn't know what to expect out of this kid. You know, was he going to be nervous? Was he going to be throwing the ball straight into the ground? I was a little scared for him. But he came out, passed with flying colors right away. First 3 drives, 3 touchdowns. Boom, boom, boom. That very first drive, we go 9 plays, 70 yards. He hits wide open Javon Baker in the end zone, 7-0. Next drive, 1 play it took him. Hits Keymore Gamble, diving catch in the end zone, 14-0. The third drive, another one here. Adam's showing some highlights for those watching on YouTube. Keymore Gamble. Which that catch, I didn't even know if he really caught the ball. It looked like maybe.
Yeah, I think if they replayed that, I think that could have been a challenge because that rollover right there. But luckily, we did not get that one on a replay. And so we talk about his throwing ability, Mike. This is a pretty darn good throw. It's deep to the deep part of the end zone. Again, it's on the far hash. So he's throwing kind of across his body, across field, laid it out. Only Gamble was going to get that and gave him a catchable ball, Mike. I know we talk about his throwing ability. That was a good throw.
Yeah, he tested us early a couple of times. That was a nice pass, and then to start the very next drive, he hits O'Keefe down the middle for about, another 40, 50 yards. So very good with his arm and his legs early in the game. On the third touchdown, he runs over a couple guys, 17-yard run right into the end zone himself. He did it all. He did it all early in the game. He scrambled away from pressure once and turned that into a positive play. Here's the touchdown run. Barrels over 2-3 guys on his way in and does a little jump into the end zone. A great start to his UCF career. First Peach of the season, John Rhys Plumlee. Congratulations, kid. Overall, for the whole game, 308 yards passing, 4 touchdowns, another 100 yards on the ground with another touchdown. So nothing to really complain about.
And this is the run people are looking at. This is the third touchdown, his first rushing touchdown. He could have been tackled at the 10, lowered his shoulder. 2 other guys could have met at the 5. He still finds a way to get in there. And this is the dynamic element that as much as Mikey Keene will always be somebody I'll root for, Mikey Keene's not giving this kind of attention. Mikey Keene's not making this kind of play. Mikey's probably tackled about the 15 or the 12-yard line. A very nice gain, but you're looking at the difference between a quarterback like John Rhys Plumlee with his athletic ability and somebody like a Mikey Keene who may not have that. So while it feels kind of crappy to bag on Mikey Keene, that's obviously not what I'm trying to do. But you recognize the special gift that JRP has. And Mike, I think I had said in the previous show, I thought he'd be okay passing. I thought we'd see a couple. I would not have guessed he threw 300 yards. I mean, I know he did, but I would not have told you going into this game that I would have thought he would have thrown for 300 yards. That was certainly something that was impressive. Again, he's raw at times. He still had opportunities, I think, to make other plays. He probably left a few yards out on the field, which is scary, right? If he can put that together and make some better reads and keep his eyes downfield just a little bit. I mean, he probably could have had 350 in this game if he hit some of those guys. Bowser, first quarter, was like literally wide open by himself. He would have run for at least another 20, 25 yards if he had made that throw. So I think there's still meat on the bone from JRP's perspective.
And he's got some power. Look at that run again for the touchdown run. 3 guys hit him, not just like swipe at him. 3 guys hit them with their shoulders, and he just bounces right off them, goes into the end zone. You better wrap up on JRP or he's going to make you look silly. And this is a great start for him. I loved watching him that first game. I'm sold.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I don't think Gus was really excited about him lowering the shoulder. I think they talked about you may have to, make a smarter decision next time, kid. But I mean, it was a great highlight play. You don't, yeah, I wouldn't want to have seen him slide there, right? He already kind of, welcome the contact. But it is one of those things where that's where Mikey Keene is on deck, right? Because that's a separated shoulder possibility down the road. So you got to, that's where having a Mikey Keene, I think, will be helpful. But you definitely saw all the skills on display for John Rhys Plumlee, Mike. So my first category, we already touched on it a little bit. I'm going Ryan O'Keefe. He did not have the most, eye-popping statistical game, at least not what we're used to Ryan O'Keefe having. In fact, it's kind of a quiet game. He only had, two of those little end-around runs for 33 yards, 3 catches, 48 yards, made a fantastic catch over the middle of the field. Had a couple of kick returns that also came out to midfield. Some got called back due to the penalties. More on that in a second, Mike. But, of course, he made the play everybody's talking about, right? The play where he chases down a guy from out of nowhere. The TV copy didn't really do it justice how far he came on that play, Mike. But I mean, obviously JRP gets hit in the pocket, ball squirts loose, ends up being a forward pass. And obviously, John Rhys starts the effort by chasing the guy down. But Ryan O'Keefe is standing at the 5-yard line when this breaks loose. And again, you see JRP's speed, by the way. You're watching this on YouTube with us. His speed, he comes out of nowhere. But he has Jablonski Green turnover, and Ryan O'Keefe knocks him down at the 3. And we hold those guys to a field goal, right? And that's a play you easily could give up on, Mike. You easily could have been like, all right, that's 7. They're up 28-0 at this point, right? You give up a touchdown. Who cares? No big deal. But I think 2 things. One, I'll give Plumlee the hockey assist because I think, hopefully as a receiver, you see your quarterback, you see another one of your teammates making that hustle. I think you got to do the same thing too. But again, O'Keefe could have easily given up on this play. But it's just phenomenal of the his effort, his attitude. He's wearing that giant ass C on his jersey for captain for a reason. That's kind of a play a captain makes. So while again it still nets us 3 points obviously off of that, and he's had much more spectacular plays in his UCF career. I think that'll be one of the most memorable ones. So I'm gonna go peach to Ryan O'Keefe. Yeah,
you love the hustle out of this kid. And the speed that he has, we've known about it for a couple of seasons now. He's in line for a big year, and he's showing that's the leadership you need to show as the captain on this team, to never give up on a play. Everybody's going to see that. Everybody noticed it right away, but everybody's going to see it again in practice. I'm sure they're going to highlight it in film study and all that. And that is an example that everybody else on this team, hey, this guy is the leading receiver on the team. He's the starter. He's not taking plays off, so you better not take any plays off either.
And hats up to the defense too, Mike, because they came out and held them to a field goal, right? And you wonder if a play like that inspired the defense to be like, okay, O'Keefe, got us here. Like let's close this deal. Let's make sure that we take care of this. So those are kind of winning plays, even though that comes on a turnover. It's weird to say that. Those are kind of the winning plays that you see teams make, and we've seen this happen from time to time with UCF, where you've seen guys who are just leaders on teams sacrifice. How many times have we talked to somebody, Mike, on our show, and we talk about like the what happened in 2011? How'd that thing go haywire? And man, I really thought we'd be good in 08. And and what really happened in that 14 year? And we hear guys go, you just didn't have guys, didn't have leaders, you just didn't gel. And this is one of those kind of plays where, to your point, you can look back in the season and say, hey, at the end of the day, it was just a tackle, but it signified more about what hopefully the culture that Gus is building, and hopefully it's good momentum we carry into future games, Mike. But Ryan O'Keefe very much gets a peach. Again, maybe the offensive stuff wasn't as great, but that hustle play and his heart on that one. Happy to hand out that peach.
Shades of Rob Calabrese in the 2012 championship game on that extra point.
Yikes! I don't know how people feel about Rob Calabrese. All right, what's your next category?
All right, I got a Liberty. This is borderline peach too, but I'm going to go Liberty because it wasn't perfect. But the defense, the overall total defense in this game, very good. They hold South Carolina State to under 100 yards total, 91 yards total. 56 in the air, 35 on the ground. They only gave up the 10 points. Like I said, those 10 points are basically gift wrapped to South Carolina State. 3 off that play that we just watched, where they had a goal line stand, and then on the punt block, that first play coming out of there, they throw a 26-yard touchdown pass. You call it a mulligan. The defense overall played great all night. Walter Yates, the third leading tackler with 7 tackles. I mean, how many people had that prediction going into the game? Probably not many. JJB right behind him with 5 tackles of his own. We got a couple sacks in there. Good to see. Remember last year, it took us a couple games to even get to the quarterback. Now, these wasn't defensive linemen guys. It wasn't Celiscar and those guys. But Justin Hodges with a sack. Nakai Martinez gets the sack in his first game. 9 tackles for a loss overall as a defense. Very good. And we get on the board turnover-wise. Devod Wilson with a very nice play on that tip pass, tip drill, interception. Good for him. Overall, a good, clean game by the defense. Most importantly, no injuries. And we load up for next week. We held these guys 2 for 16 on third downs. So we got off the field every time we could.
I mean, they were 2 for 4 on fourth down. But, what I was most excited about, you actually just mentioned it, was Hodges and Nakai Martinez both play that knife position, right? And we know T-Will loves to blitz out of that knife position. We know Hodges has done that a few times last year. To see both him and Nakai Martinez on a called blitz, get to the quarterback, get him to the grounds, I think that's really exciting. And I'd love to have seen a sack from somebody in that front 4, maybe that front 7. But obviously, we know that's such an effective blitz package for UCF. And I think last year, the knife position was initially, Bryson Armstrong tried it for a little bit. That didn't really work out. And then I think we brought in Hodges after a while. I think that really shorted that up. I think he's going to be a really key player. But I'm excited that a true freshman, Nakai Martinez, got in. And this wasn't a garbage time sack. This was like, second, third quarter, I think Nakai made that play. And so it's cool to see that we're going to have some talent along those lines. We had a bunch of guys with tackles for loss. Mike Curvin Shute had 2 TFLs. That was a name we heard a little bit in camp. So you definitely saw some guys making some plays out there as well. So overall, the defense, to your point, we give up a touchdown kind of in a garbage time setting. But we also heard a lot about, we had, what's his name, Ernest Robinson on from the telecast. Talked about Shaquem Davis. He only had 2 catches for 35 yards, and we held him in check pretty good. Again, one was a touchdown for sure, but we held him in check pretty good. Outside of that, only 6 other receptions from players. So overall, the secondary played well. I think the defense did what they had to do, and it helps. It makes you feel better about this, because if the offense is going to sputter at all, hopefully the defense can keep us in games like they did last year until the offense figures it out. So T-Will, we got to, he's on the screen pointing at us right now. We got to point back at T-Will because he's done a nice job. I think this next game will be a big test for him. But overall, at this point, T-Will's done a nice job the last half of the year last year, and obviously so far. So it's a nice call for you on the AutoZone Liberty Bowl.
Yeah, this week is going to be a step up, even though Louisville did not look good in week 1, but definitely going to be a step up in competition compared to South Carolina State.
All right, I'll go next, Mike. I'm going to give a Liberty Bowl to my guy, Johnny Richardson. This is a home photo. He took a picture with my kid at FanFest, Mike. We talked about Johnny Richardson. One, I don't think he fell to the ground at all on his own accord. So we're already ahead of where we were last year. But, man, something about this kid gets in the game. And I know he was in a little bit later. He was spelling Bowser. But when he gets the ball in his hands, Mike, he is just electric. He had 5 rushes for 59 yards. That's 11 yards a carry. He also had a nice touchdown catch as well. He had 2 receptions out the backfield. It just feels like he's kind of got that, for me, that Adrian Killens type excitement. When the ball gets in his hands, you feel like he's going to make something happen. He's going to get a chunk play. He's going to get a bunch of yards. He's going to make a couple guys miss. Again, last year, he just couldn't stay on his feet. But so far, game 1, again, 5 rushes, 59 yards, 2 receptions, and a touchdown reception. Again, he played a really good game. It makes you feel helpful to say, okay, if Bowser doesn't have it, we've got this 1-2 punch, right? You got this thunder lightning. You got this kid who can come in, be a nice change of pace back. He's somebody that Gus talked about pretty glowingly in the preseason press conferences about how much he's changed and how much he's gotten better. So I really liked the performance out of Johnny Richardson. He was our leading rusher last year when Bowser went out. I mean, he definitely held things down for us there, but I think it was a nice start for Johnny. I think he's going to be a good X factor weapon for the offense this year.
I wonder if we're ever going to see the 2 of them in the backfield at the same time. You think Gus has any of that up his sleeve at some point?
Probably. I mean, I think that was a question asked before. I think if they're going to do some of that Wildcat stuff, right? Like you put Bowser in the Wildcat, right? You put Johnny Richardson as that jet sweep guy. I mean, that's pick your poison, right? Or O'Keefe or anybody else. So there's probably a couple of wrinkles where you see something like that. And if you're a defense, you're like, do I guard against this giant human being back here taking the snap, or do I defend this quick guy coming around? So I'm sure there's a wrinkle or 2 that Gus has in there.
Right. But this kid we've seen the talent now for a while. What he needs to do is just break some long touchdowns. That's the one thing that's holding him back. You mentioned last year he kept falling down. This year he stays on his feet. He breaks a couple 50-yard plus touchdowns. He's going to be a fan favorite for everybody.
And do you consider him to be like a shifty back? Like, I don't see him like making moves and cuts, making guys miss. He's just like gets the ball, maybe one shoulder fake and it's just straight line speed. You don't see a lot of, head and shoulder fakes, Barry Sanders type of moves. He seems like he just finds his crease, hits the hole, and goes. Like, he's not what I would call, or what I think is a shifty kind of back, right?
No, not as much. He doesn't do a lot of dancing, which I like. I don't like guys that are just dancing around. Every once in a while they hit that home run, but then there's 6 times where they've lost 10 yards because they're trying to do too much. Hit the hole and goal. That's a nice style to have. And a lot of times you'll see him just squirt out of somewhere and pop out for another 10, 15 yards. So he's in line for a big year. Hopefully a big night on Friday.
Yeah, it gives you hope that, again, more wrinkles in the offense. I know we talked a lot about Bowser and the receivers, but, having this deep running back room and he's such a change of pace. And to your point, I wonder if the defense was so kind of cued in on Isaiah Bowser. That was the game plan, the big bruising back between the tackles. This kid comes in and it's like, whoa, wait, we didn't prepare for this. Like, what's going on here, right? If you can find a way to dial that change of pace, that could be lethal throughout the year, Mike. Sometimes bad things happen, and we got to call that out too, Mike. I know your next category is what?
It's a Boca Bowl. I labeled it.
Yeah, you did.
Only bad things happen in Boca, which hopefully gets corrected in a week or so when we go there again. But my God, Daniel Obarski, I don't know what to say about anymore. This is not good, man. I'm ready to abandon the whole experiment. He had one chance to kick a field goal right before the half.
Experiment. He's a senior. There's no experiment at this point. This is what we've been living with.
It can't be. It can't be. He missed that field goal by a whole other goalpost. If there was a goalpost next to the one that was there, it would have been wide right of that one, which is how far he missed that field goal. It was so bad. It was embarrassing. I went to the bathroom after that, right at halftime, pissed because we just missed the field goal. Yeah, I pissed in the bathroom, and I was pissed that this guy missed that field goal. We've been saying it the whole time. He hasn't hit one over 40 yards in his career. This was one. I mean, there's not a lot of pressure. There's not a lot of, he didn't have to rush to get out there. Everything, the clock was stopped. Get out there, set yourself up, and hit one right through the uprights. And then everybody would have felt great about Obarski. He hit us extra points, 8 for 8 on extra points. Fine there. You got to be able to hit field goals. I have no confidence in him. I don't care if it's a 40-yarder. I don't care if it's a 25-yarder. I don't think he's going to hit it when he goes out there, especially if he's off to the hash mark. Forget it. Everything's got to be perfect for this guy. Like an extra point, it's got to be from the 3-yard line straight on. Otherwise, I have no hope that he's going to actually hit it.
Well, to be fair, so the clock actually wasn't stopped because it was 3rd and 17. John Rhys threw a 1-yard pass to Baker, and the team trots on the field. But they trotted on the field with like 14, 15 seconds on the clock, right? Plenty of time to get situated because even after he missed, he still had 3 seconds on the clock. So we didn't take the entire time. So there was a little bit of rushing, sure. But to your point, we're already up big at that point. It's not a pressure kick. It's at home. You should be used to that field, that end zone, those goalposts. You would have thought this was one that, okay, it's a little bit out of what we've seen in his range, but we keep hearing this kid's got a strong leg. We've seen it on kickoffs, and I don't know if he's got the yips. I'm not sure what it is, but that was a makeable kick. The reality is we didn't need it this time, but we're going to need it at some point. And when that comes, to your point, are we going to be comfortable when he comes trotting out there at a 42-yarder to win the game? I mean, that's the one where it's going to be a bit dicey. Now, 32-yarder, maybe you feel differently, but 40+, I mean, if you can't hit 40+ yard field goals, I mean, pro career is not in your reach.
No. And this Riker Casey looked good on kickoffs. He kicked everything through the end zone for touchbacks. He's obviously got a strong leg. Is he more accurate than Obarski? More. Is he worse than Obarski kicking field goals? Is that possible? I mean, we've seen the practice videos of him hitting cars in the parking lot off to the side. We've seen.
Well, to be fair, we don't know who kicked that, but a lot of evidence would point in that direction. Yes.
At this point, I'm willing to give Riker Casey a shot, give Colton Boomer a shot, somebody. And if you're watching on YouTube, it tells you everything about Obarski's career. The picture that we have of him is of him running with the football. That was his best play that I think that he's had as a Knight, and now this is his 4th season. It was a punt gone wrong. He got the ball out of bounds. He ran 10 yards or whatever it is, and kicked it again.
It's also the easiest photo of him to modify, but more on Obarski in a bit, Mike. So I'll leave the conversation here, and I will go to my last category, and that is penalties, Mike. Penalties. 10 penalties, 85 yards. So it isn't like, hey, we got killed by penalties, but we had a couple of bad ones on special teams. You almost got the victory lap of all victory laps. Last week, your headline was X going to give it to you, and you thought Xavier Townsend was going to make a big play, and lo and behold, catches a punt, goes back to the house, gets called back on holding, actually by Walter Yates III is the person who was credited with that hold. I don't know how realistic that is, Mike. A bunch of penalties all over the field. Again, sure, in this game, you can probably afford to have some of those, Mike, but those are things we've got to clean up. We had false starts early in the game. We had a couple of false starts on receivers, which is something you don't want to see happen. That first drive, we had 2 false starts in that very first drive, which, that should have been the drive they've been practicing for God knows how long. You mentioned special teams, a couple penalties on some runbacks, and O'Keefe got one out to about the midfield mark. That one got brought back. So we've got to clean up some of the penalty stuff. Again, this was a game where it didn't hurt us. 85 yards overall isn't terrible, but it took 7 points off the board at least. It maybe makes a shorter field for some of those other drives overall as well too. So penalties, 10 of 85. That's my bookable.
Yeah, that was frustrating in that first drive, those false starts. That was the one blemish on the whole first quarter, which was almost perfect. We got to cut that in half going into this week. 10 penalties, cut it down to 5. 6 tops, and then you can put yourself in a good shot to win this game. You can kill yourself. This is going to hurt you worse than special teams. Missing kicks, penalties can change an entire game. So, got to get cleaned up right now.
Especially false start, Mike. We're at home, right? Like, the crowd noise probably isn't. I mean, we're not in a raucous road environment where like you gotta, get the signals correct. You're at home, easy play. Again, you've probably practiced these plays before, particularly that first drive. Maybe it was nerves, maybe it just was guys, not being able to hold their water. There's another PI penalty, I think, on Corey Thornton, which was kind of questionable. He kind of just, I think, had a hand on the jersey, maybe a slight tug. I don't think it was that egregious. So there are some that you probably go borderline, but hopefully this is something that we can clean up, because we can't afford to shoot ourselves in the penalties, in the foot with penalties. 10 penalties. We're entering Josh Heupel territory at that point. Yeah,
not good. But you did like my boy Townsend returning that punt, huh? We're going to see a little bit more of him.
You almost had the walk-off of all walk-offs, my friend, because you called that on the show. You said that, hey, Xavier Townsend is going to do something big. It was kind of a weird, obscure, like, is that really going to happen, Mike? But I'll put it on screen for everybody here. Again, it's a clean catch, and where he's about the 35-yard line, makes one guy miss with speed, gets a crease, and I don't think he's touched. Maybe right at there, but he gets you see that speed kind of breaking away. Again, there was no need for the hold on that play.
Where was
they called on Walter Yates. If you're watching along with us, I think it may be right there. The guy's at about the 25-yard line, Mike. I think that's Yates. So if anyone can see my cursor on the screen there, I think that's Yates there. So I think that's what they called the hold on. I don't know if it was prior to him getting into camera view or not.
All right. Well, I mean, you blew the kid's first touchdown. You got to buy him lunch or something. You can't just let that go.
Yeah, and then we'd been calling for a special teams touchdown, and we got one later on in the game. We actually got our special teams touchdown on a punt block, right? But we had been calling for that electric return game. Is that something that UCF is going to be able to pull off this year? We finally got that. I guess we had 2 technically in this game, although one doesn't really count overall. My special teams, another one I almost added to my list here today, wasn't a pretty sight. Obviously a punt block. We saw that happen last year with Navy. Gus seemed to put that more on Andrew Osteen, not hurrying up a little bit. You had the penalties overall. Barsky missing a field goal. Special teams is probably the one unit that really kind of drags some stuff down. Again, I get when you get a punt block for a touchdown, that's that makes things a little bit easier. But special teams, an area of focus, hopefully this week.
Well, they answered one of the Sunny prop questions already. Will we have a special teams touchdown? And the answer is yes. I think I voted no on that, just to
I don't blame
you. Good to see there. And what about the other one? Tight end receptions. We have some bets going on that one, right? I think there was 4 tight end receptions in this first game. I believe Gamble had 3 and Marsh Wojan with another.
Yeah.
And 2 of them were touchdowns. So what did we set the over under at 35?
I think we had it at 30.
30. All right, so off to a decent start. Last year, it took us a while to get to 40 receptions, I think, out of the tight ends.